We see the slaughterhouse worker suffering these psychological effects, such as PTSD, and these effects differ from the psychological norm. This is due to being constantly exposed to and engaging with death. While eating meat may not be nearly as significant, it is still a constant reminder of death, and it also associates death with the pleasure of taste. For a second, let's forget about what's normal in society. Imagine you are living in an all-vegan society, and imagine what becoming a meat eater does to your psychology in this society. It is maybe less intense than being a slaughterhouse worker, but it is still not level 0 intensity. Compared to a vegan, the meat eater will face some level of difference in comfort with the food choices they make. The negativity and reminder of death will cause low levels of something very similar to PTSD. Imagine what degree of PTSD we have normalized in our society. Because this animal eating behavior is normalized, it makes it much harder to be aware of the contrast that exists between living vegan and living as a meat eater. Especially because most people have not even explored what being vegan is really like. This is something that goes beyond paying attention to what you eat, but actually deeply considering what the food is and the path it took to reach your plate. This was all necessary at one point in history, but for most people it isn't anymore because we have access to vegan foods readily. We are suffering some amount of unnecessary psychological problems that we aren't even aware of because our instinct is to compare our psychology to each other's and the norms around us rather than to look at hypothetical higher states of ethics. We don't imagine utopia, rather we compare ourselves to our neighbors. We compare ourselves to a norm rather than seek progress. But now, knowing this, you should question, what does it mean to become a vegan, and what does this do to your psychology? Consider exploring veganism as a test to yourself. Meditate on where your food comes from while you're consuming it. Imagine the moments before death, the life before death, and consider how it would physically feel to exist in such a life. Test yourself by removing your coping mechanisms that are instilled within you to deal with the truth of reality. Humor, ignorance, dissociation, remove them all, and expose yourself to actual reality. If you're interested in exploring this path of life, contact me and I can introduce you to a slaughterhouse as a personal psychological experiment. And while it may sound intense, there is a lot of social support and it won't be nearly as intense as you're thinking. Thank you for watching, and if you're interested, check out my other content.